Welcome back to the expat weekend for retirees and wannabes who have maybe never been to the Philippines. Today, I'm going to talk solely about Cebu and why I think it needs to be on your list of locations to include in your research on where you want to live. Now, in my other episodes, I covered off why these two locations, and today we're going to get a little bit more in depth, but it always revolves around that clinical and hospital potential later in life, okay? This first year, maybe even two, is to get to know the Philippines. And don't make any rash decisions about selling off everything in your host country quite yet. Stay tuned. At the end of this video, I will again include two cards, links to previous videos of our condo / apartment and walking around in Angeles. We have no video of Cebu. We started the YouTube after that, but in time I will include some of SanRemigio, and we are going to touch on SanRemigio a bit today. Okay, so let's get right at it here. So why Cebu? And why do I say a minimum of 10 days? First, if you watch the other video, I suggested that you fly into Manila, you do both locations, Angeles, Clark, and Cebu. And I suggested that you fly to Cebu first because all you have to do is go international to domestic and you're there and you can start your jet lag recovery. If you go to Angeles Clark first, you have to figure out the taxis to get to the bus, to get to the trike, to get to the hotel. Not an easy process. And then there's the waiting time, and again, you're bagged because you're jet lagged. Okay, so let's get on, and I will cover Angeles Pampanga next week in more detail as I'm doing with Cebu today. Even if you're going to only go for 3 weeks, this video still applies to you because I still feel that you need to get a good cross-section of what the Philippines has to offer. Cebu is a little bit more of a regular city, downtown core and commuters and all of that type of stuff. It also has those other features, like if you go out to SMC side, it has a aquarium, I would say Western level. It's pretty darn good, and also you're going to pay Western prices. But why do I say Cebu regardless of how long you're going to go? And that's what we're going to dive into today. I always will touch on hospitalization as another key for Cebu and then Angeles Clark. It's important, and I will always give these two stories. One is a Filipina. Friend of ours had a baby. Shortly after birth, the baby started getting stressed. She had to go to the general hospital. She couldn't afford the Western hospital. There's still a fee there, even at the general hospital. And she couldn't get a bed for that baby for 12 to 14 hours. Now, they still attended to the baby, all of that type of stuff. But in our Western brains, we just go with that kind of thing, right? Having people lined up in the hospitals unless there's a major disaster going on is, but that shows you how busy these general hospitals can be. The other story is a Western friend of ours, I won't say what country, burned through all of his money quite quickly and was still stuck in the hospital. Friends started to have to help pop up some money. And in time, of course, it was necessary to contact the family back in his native country, and they thought it was all a scam. So the money wasn't coming. Now, this is why it's important to establish in your host country maybe a password or two. No different than if you logged in on a computer, you got passwords, you got sub-questions that you have to do after your passwording. Why a minimum of 10 days for Cebu? Because as we're going to go through here, you're going to need those 10 days. Remember, my suggestion is you fly into Manila, get off your international flight, grab a domestic flight, go to Cebu, and start your jet lag recovery. My opinion, you don't want to bang through the taxi and then the bus and then the trike all to get to your hotel on that first day. That can be a process and a half. Now, I will digress a little bit and say that if you are coming from Europe, there are opportunities to land in Clark. So you could reverse all of these videos. But for many of us, the airport that we're going to be landing in is Manila. So that's why I suggest international, domestic, fly to Cebu, start your process. And this is why you need 10 days. First, you're going to wipe out 2 days just on your jet lag. You got to get that sleep pattern back in order as quick as you can because you've got 10 days. So let's wipe out 2 days. That's only going to give you opportunity to do one-on-one networking with expats in malls, assuming that you have never met anybody. You can't meet up with anybody in that short duration that you're going to be landing in. If you contacted me and you wanted to go to Cebu and start this process, and we're already in SanRemigio, I'll pop down and get you. It'll be something to do. But putting all of that aside, getting down to the malls is the way you're going to start networking. Now that sounds weird. In Western countries, we tend to, well, I do anyway, I try to avoid the malls with, like it's a plague. But you need to go there. The McDonald's are there, the Krispy Kremes are there, the Shakey's Pizza, the Pizza Hut, they're all there, okay? And if you grab a cup of coffee, keep your costs down, wander the mall too, but say hi a lot. You would get a lot of, or, you know, all those different kind of looks from people who are not ready to engage. Or they may just look at you and keep walking. And if it's like me, sometimes I grab my stuff and then I come back out, and if the person's still sitting there then and by themselves, then I'll say, can I join you? And then we'll ramble on, right? Because you opened the door, right? But there's the key, is getting some of that networking done. Now, mentioned in a previous video, Facebook Marketplace. It is necessary in the Philippines. Everything happens through Marketplace. It's free, so the Philippines all gravitate to it. Once you've got through that first transition, your jet lag, then you have the opportunity to start spreading out a little bit. Now, a couple of things. I have already suggested Red Planet. You can book that hotel for both locations. You'll know what you're getting. I'll show some pictures here too. Nice and clean, good internet, decent TV, English, sometimes some Korean if you're Korean. But a good hotel, good central base, and in Cebu, it's right across from Ayala Mall. So you don't even have to experiment with the trikes or the jeeps or taxis or anything in this early stage, okay? When you land in Cebu, you get to the taxi terminal. There's metered cabs. Make sure you go for a metered cab. I believe there's now 2 structures of metered cab there, but the peso difference is 20 pesos difference between the two. We don't care. Now that you've got past those first 2 days, the jet lag is lagging. You've been in Ayala Mall. You're banging around a little bit. Maybe you've made an excursion down to SM Cebu, which is not that far away. It's 10 minutes by taxi. Very short. Got to remember the traffic is very dense, but 10 minutes. Pop into a travel agent and see if you can get a tour to Bohol. Go see the Chocolate Hills, go see the Tarsier. It will be a way for you to experience that island, understand there's no real central city. The expats on Bohol are kind of scattered all over the place. That's okay. In time, that might be the perfect location. Take a fast cat, so you know the duration that it takes you to go back and forth. If it's a row, just divide by 10 on your time. It's slow. But if you can do that excursion, that's great. Now you're going to experience Bohol in this trip as well. See if there's anything to Dumaguete. Last I checked, nothing to Dumaguete. But you will be able to see from Bohol that when you come to Cebu City, you're immediately in that clinical hospital area, immediately. Probably about the same amount of time it takes us to sort of get squared away in SanRemigio, hop in the car, and come down and bang through the traffic and get to the hospital. Probably about the same amount of time from port to port, right? So what else are we going to add into this trip? If Dumaguete is there, I would book that as well. I think it's well worth it. Go over there, have a bang around, have a quick look, just get a sense in your head, okay? Again, Dumaguete is a smaller city, much smaller than Cebu, but it does have a city and more expats living in the city. But hospitalization and clinical, you're going to have to take the ferry across. I don't think they have a fast cat there. Likely you're going to have to take a hotel if you need clinical stuff done. I can't think of something off the top of my head. The only thing that's coming into my head is dialysis. But likely, you know, you're not going to get the appointment timing and such that you're going to be able to whip in and whip back out and catch the ferry in a decent cycle. The other opportunity here, but it's going to the North Bus Terminal, is grab a bus, grab an air-conditioned bus, they call them aircon, and go up to Bogo. The bus stops at the City Hall there, which is just outside of Bogo, but grab a trike and say to him, look, I need you for 4 hours. How much are you going to charge me? Get him to drive through Bogo, tell him you want to go see the wet market, you just want to have a visual of it, drive out, and then tell him that you want to go to the public beach in SanRemigio. I will post that video for sure at the end. Bang around, jump in that trike again, head back to the bus depot. You can do all of that in one day, easy. That's my suggestion on all of this. Now, what other things are you going to do while you're in Cebu City? I would suggest you go to SM Seaside. Bang around there. Maybe take in the oceanographic aquarium thing. Bang around the mall. See who you can meet again for expats. I don't know how many are in the Talisay southern area of Cebu. Have no idea. They don't seem to pop up as much when I do searches. But it's a wonderful area to go down to. And if you do end up living down there, they've got the new bridge going over, and from Talisay you can pop right into Lapu-Lapu area. I'm not a big fan of discovering Lapu-Lapu right now. It's very congested. It's hard to get on and off there because it's bridges, bridges, and bridges. Yes, 3 now. But also anything that's up against the water there, you're going to pay more than Western prices for your condo/apartment when you get to that stage. So this is not, in my opinion, this time to be looking for that. Now, caveat, if you feel like you want to spend $1,000 a month, have at her. I would think it would be short term, maybe a year at the most, like we did, but the opportunity is there. It's just harder to get on and off of that. When you're going up to Bogo, you will run into Liloan, you will run into Compostela and Danao. You will run into these cities as you go up. They're the closest ones to Cebu City, and there are a few expats there. But the trikes, or sorry, the buses and the air-conditioned buses, the city air-conditioned buses, and the Jeeps run out to those as far as Danao. And SM Constellation is the other SM that I suggest you go to. Much smaller, does have a theater. If you live in the SanRemigio areas we would do, that would be our western connection. Get into an Ace Hardware, you know, whatever it is that you're going to need in the future. So that's my suggestion on why you're going to go to Cebu. You have multiple locations. You've got potentially 3 locations just within Cebu. You've got Mandawi, Liloan, and maybe the neighboring little cities. You've got Talisay to the south. You've got downtown Cebu. You've got Dumaguete, Negros. Now, off of Negros, there are multiple ferries that come across to the island of Cebu, but Duma is the bigger city, Dumaguete. You're going to get over to Bohol, hopefully. So you've got all of that potential expat around you. And if you make some friends in Cebu, and you do find yourself living on Negros or living on Bohol, then you've got friends. So later in life, if you've got clinical and you keep that friendship up, maybe you can couch surf on their couch. Packing your bag. Fill it full of some coat hangers and pots and pans, and bring your dishes, the unbreakable ones. Hopefully not plastic, hopefully more like the Corel stuff. You know, that's what I would fill up in there. Bring some, you know, vitamin C with you. You can get your vitamin D from the sky. It's free. Plan well. By the way, D-Minder app. Download it. It will save you from getting burnt. Coconut oil is a great SPF. You're going to have to apply more than once, though. Other apps that you need Signal, you need WhatsApp, because you're going to make connection or set your friends and stuff up in your host country, your native country, and make sure that you have that communication back to your home country. Now, what's the big upside? We've finished with the packing, but what's the big upside I feel about moving to the Philippines? One is English. Two is you're going to be able to take this carcass and live 2 complete lives in another country. Who can say that very often? And the other thing is, you're going to have all those histories behind you, all those stories that you can now yammer on about to new friends, okay? There are people that I have met that if I met here in Canada, we would never have been friends. But because both of us have got lots of stories, and now you start developing the friendship and you start developing what you like and don't like, and then both of you can start avoiding that stuff, boom. To me, that's the way to go. So let's make this a wrap. A little bit of a ramble today, but a little bit more structured as well. The key, again, to me is you've got to meet Cebu because you've got those neighboring islands. And next week, yes, I will touch on Anglais Clark. And yes, maybe a companion video, but I will talk about the Hoochie Coochie area, which is not the place to meet your future spouse or girlfriend. My opinion. Okay. But we will go through that a little bit because it is important. Bye, guys. I'm going to keep soaking up these rays.